my dear mentees of CSIR SRTP Online 2020. Today's our lecture is on mystery of brain, or you can say it mystery of nervous system. Now I just want to share a picture with you which will give you some interesting energy to find out what is the interesting aspect of our nervous system or brain. So I am just starting my lecture with a very interesting picture. That is, do you know about the fineness gauge? And I can throw a question to you, that can you say the animal, let us say the man can survive or not after this accident. Look at this rod, which is 42 inch long and 1.2 inch wide. This rod is a metal rod and blown right up through the skull and out the top. There is some confusion about this picture, that some says that there is a loss of consciousness for a few moments. Some says that there is no consciousness at all. But the question is not about the consciousness. Question is that is it possible for the man to survive again and go back to his work field? Yes, this is because after 45 minutes of this accident, the human regain its consciousness, and he some very short period of time, after some rest, he returned to his work. So from this picture, this is very clear that every part of the brain is not concerned with a life and death. There are different parts of our brain. Some are responsible for motor functions, some are for sensory functions. So in which part of this brain is damaged by the rod, it's not responsible for that functions which may affect his life and death of question. So from this slide, I am just taking some light to you that our brain is controlling all of the function of our body, but it's a different way. It had its own responsibility to control different functions in different way. Okay. Now my question to all of you, that what is the similarities between a brain, the picture of this brain, and a full-scale newspaper? Here are some bundle of newspaper, but I think the picture, I think that will be very right to if I present a single full-scale newspaper. What is the similarities? The similarity is that generally the surface area of brain. The surface area of brain is more or less similar to the one full-scale newspaper. So it is very important to compress a big surface area of brain in a small skull, so we can see the sulci or sulcus or gyrus outside of our brain. There is important information to you. Now look at this picture. The size of the brain is not matters sometimes when it's considered its consciousness or the judgment power or the emotions. Look at the brain neurons numbers in billions. In elephant it was 251, but look at the cerebral cortex neurons, it is 5.6. So there is a more or less 50s to 1 or something near that. But look at the human here, the neuron, total neuron is 86 billion, but look at the cerebral cortex neuron, that is a 16.3. The ratio is more or less 5.1:1. So number of or the amount of the neurons is not responsible for human beings. because if you have a large number of neurons and large number of glial cell, a large number of neurons is not responsible for your for your behavior, but very basically you can say behavior, or the behavior may be the cognitive functions and emotions or any other behavior. So, the cerebral cortex neuron is very important for our human beings to take a judgment, to take a love to another, or to take a decision making power. Now, that's not enough. The cerebral cortex neuron is not enough to create a human being, and we thought that we are the superior most than all of our animals. But look at some picture in the comparison. There is a brain to body mass ratio, there is a higher intrasor than human. The neocortical surface area, there is a neocortical surface area of dolphin is greater than human. The neurogenesis process, which is greater than human in some phases. So, in some cases, in some respects, animals are ahead of us. So, we are the human has some speciality in our brain, that is the cognitive functions, behavioral output, emotional expression, judgment power, and these all are impact or compact in some specific part of the brain which is not so developed in other animals. So, in the evolutionary part, in the evolution, we are why we are human beings rather than other animals, because we gather or receive some functional part of the brain which is very improved and advanced than other. These are the main components. There is the neurons. There are lots of varieties of neurons in our brain which are the main part and component of this nervous system, by which we can say that is, yes, I am a human and I have a power to control all other animals. So, nowadays the neurons and its architecture is very important nowadays. In our project, when we are thinking about the sleep behavior and EEG, particularly the cortical EEG, then the pyramidal cells. Then the pyramidal cell, this type of pyramidal cell of the cerebral cortex is now important for us. So, if as there are many neurons are here, but we can concentrate the pyramidal cell, it is a large size cell of the cerebral cortex. Okay. Now, this is a very common and very preliminary structure of brain. That is there are central sulcus. There are generally 4 or 5 colors. The blue color is the frontal lobe. There are parietal, occipital, and temporal lobe. And there are some sulcus. There are fissures. There are central sulcus. There are longitudinal fissures. And now, one important part is that from this picture, this is there are 2 parts of the hemisphere, that is the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, and we generally humans are left hemisphere dominant, because there is a crisscross connections of the motor control of brain on different ways. That is, our right hand is totally under control of the left hemisphere of our brain, and our left hand is totally controlled on the right hemisphere of our brain. So, take an example of the Sachin Tendulkar. His batting hand and bowling hand is right hand, but his writing hand is left hand. So, I think he has a 2 hemisphere dominant man. Saurav Ganguly, his batting hand is left and the bowling hand and throwing hand is right. So, his also his 2 hemisphere is also dominating, but in case of me, I think I have not so power in my left hand to write. So, I am just left hemisphere dominant man. Think about you. So, this is very important, and one information I am just sharing to you. In dolphin, there are 6 months shifting charge of 2 hemisphere. There is a left hemisphere takes charge for 6 months, and another 6 months over to right hemisphere. So, this is a very interesting topics of us. Now, this is a Golgi Cox staining of the human cortex, that is a 180 micron cross-stat section. I am saying just presenting to you that why there is a pyramidal cell neurons. I look at the architecture, I look at the disconnections of the synapses. This is very important for our cognitive process, for our development, and for our sleep-wake cycle or regulation of sleep-wake cycle also. So, the cerebral cortical neuronal architecture is very important for our next few lecture or the classes, because the sleep-wake cycle or the pattern or how sleep came, how awake came, these all are totally dependent on the cortical neural structures and these functions, interconnections with the other neurons, that is the thalamocortical thalamic circuit neurons, very important in this respect. This is a very funny picture, but very important. Our brain gives a space for our limbs in the like that picture. There are a lot of space for that part of the body which have precise functions and have to precise movement. Look at the fingers. It has a lot of space in our brain, because we have to write, and for write there will be some precise movement of our fingers. The lips, we are speaking, we are singing, and for all of these functions the precise movement of lips and tongue are also very important. So, the brain gives those person or those candidate a big space to his area who has precise functions, who has less precise function, less precise movement, had the less space in our brain. Look at this. Upper panel is the sensory and the lower panel is the motor. Look at the, as example, our hand. It has also sensory functions. It can receive sense, and it's a motor function. We can voluntarily control or the move our hand. So, the hand or fingers, look at the say example as the fingers are two connections, that is sensory and motor. It has two different areas in our brain, some area for sensory functions and some area for motor functions. But look at this, which areas are bigger? That is motor functions are bigger, because the motor functions of hand are more important than the sensory function of our hand or fingers. But look at the eyes. The sensory areas of the eyes in the brain is bigger than the motor, because movement of our eyes is not so important, but the sensory functions of eyes is very lot or more important than the motor. So, the brain is going very calculatively. There is a very precise calculation going on in every time in our brain, because you can get the space in your brain, you can give attention in the brain if you have function or if you have any importance in our life. Now, came to the very important part of the brain or our daily life, that is the emotions. There is a mystery of brain. Why or how we are expressing in some certain input. So, you get some input of your good result, your expression is very happy. If your input is very sad, like a death of any person news, your expression will be sad. So, how it is controlled? This is very important nowadays. The amygdala and different limbic structure or system of our brain is now controlling these functions. This way we are far behind or far ahead from other animals, because we have emotions and we have right emotions. But nowadays this is very confusing to me, that in social media there are lots of emojis like that, and when a person posted a post a accident, now some are giving emojis like a very happy, smiling emojis. So, how is going on their mind? They are not thinking about the situation, they are just putting emojis. And in these emojis, I am just crossing these emojis because the first position, it has no rights in the first position, because this is a sad emojis. I think this one and this one may take the first position, and it may for the last position, because the sadness or some unhappiness we have to detect or we have to delete it from our general life. But we are still suffering this type of emotional backlog or the stresses, that is educational stress, there is unemployment stress, there are family stress, there are politicians, there are political stress, lot of stress is going around in our mind and in our all around us. So, we have to cope up with that, and this type of stress has very important influence, or say we can say the bad impact on our sleep wake cycle. And passively sleep wake cycle can change your hormonal balance, it can change your mood, and it can initiate some depression. So, there is an interlink between the stress and sleep wake cycle and other functions of our brain and our daily life. I am just skipping these. These were the very important part of our brain, that is the amygdala, and by this amygdala our emotional outburst escape. This is a core neuroscience, and as you are not the core neuroscience or neurophysiology student, so it is very hard to know. I will just I can explain you in another classes if you are interested for that. But this is very important. What is the love? It is also a mystery of brain, because the love and affection are totally controlled by the brain by a neuroendocrine process. This is also a mystery of life. For love at first sight, it is a very interesting line, love at first sight. But how a person is loved by one, not by another? How the red color is very my favorite color, yellow is your. So, are there any circuit, or are there any calculation, or are there any internal homeostasis are there, or the synaptic control? The answer is maybe. So, the love is controlled by the brain in one sentence. There are leos, attraction and attachment. Like testosterone and estrogen, these endocrine hormones are for our leos. For attraction, we need dopamine, norepinephrine or serotonin. These are neurotransmitters. And for attachment, there are also need some endocrine hormones, that is oxytocin and vasopressin. So, the green upper arrows showing that the sex hormone, the dopamine like neurotransmitter, the oxytocin, vasopressin, the elevated level of these neuroendocrine process can give you the pleasure of love, the sense of love. The total balance between these neuroendocrine process, our love making power and reality of love, we can sense the reality of love. So, nowadays, but when we are looking around, we just searching love from our parents, from our life partner, from our son and daughter, from our friends, from our relatives. We are always finding loves, but are we really getting that? I think no. So, we have to find the love from anywhere and for any other. Our brain is just walking behind the love making, or the just making the love environment by its regulation, by the two important systems, that is endocrine and neurons. but the over or the too much dopamine or oxytocin may give some internal irrational behavior or jealousy. So, we need the ideal dopamine and oxytocin level. Dopamine is a candidate of nervous system and oxytocin is a candidate of endocrine system. So, the neuroendocrine balance of dopamine and oxytocin give us the least attraction and attachment. There is a pleasure of love with a pleasure of sense of love. So, this is a triangle. From this triangle, many researchers are doing their PhDs by this. There is a neuroendocrinology, neuroimmunology, or neuroimmunomodulation, and this triangle gives some ideas about that our endocrine process and the immune system are not a single entity. It has influence of nervous system. Very basically, there are some basic examples that in bereavement, in our society there are some rituals of taking vegetables, taking veg food for a long period of time. So, these has some relations of emotion with our immunity power. Take an example that if you going to your examination hall by eating biryani, egg korma and pulao, I think you may suffer a dysentery after your examination. But the same biryani, egg korma and pulao, if you take or eat in a tour of a hilly region with your parents, educational tour or the sea beach, I think there will be no problem at all. So, our immune system, our endocrine system, our digestive system, all the systems are totally under control of the brain. This is the mystery of brain, how the brain is controlling all other functions, all other system of our body in a single hand. This is a relaxing picture after a long day exhaustion. This is a very relaxing picture, and this is most important for nowadays to sleep, to get a deep or good sleep for a couple of hours, 7 to 8 hours, because we are just breaking our sleep wake cycle nowadays by the influence of our modern societies. Look at the upper panel, there are owl and some nocturnal animals, and in the behind panel we are not nocturnal animal, but we are becoming nocturnal animal day by day. We are just breaking our sleep work cycles or sleep work duration or sleep work pattern by our own. But there are some I think there are some educational pressure, there are some official pressures. I think I know that this is we are bound to doing these in the night, but we have to calculate, we have to design our work time in daytime or within 10 p.m. because after that our internal hormonal regulation and the neurotransmitter regulation, which is important for sleep cycles, is just going the opposite side if you continue your work in night. So, these are the hypnogram. There is an important character of our brain, that is the sleep. There are sequence of sleep from awake to stage 1, 2, 3, and there are REM sleep also. REM means the rapid eye movement sleep. I am just giving some ideas of nervous system because this is not possible to teach you about the mystery of brain in a one lecture, but dream sleep is a REM sleep and is not a good sleep, because if we study the characters of EEG and EMG, then we can say the character is more or less same to the awakening, but this is a sleep. So, this is a mystery. This is a mystery of brain, that is a dream, but no dream in the night, I think that is a good sleep for you. And our God giving us a power, and we all believe that our God is looking all by his third eyes. But I think we all have some third eyes, one third eyes, that is a pineal gland, because in night and day there are some importance of the pineal gland which is controlling our awake and sleep. So by this third eye we can control our sleep wake pattern, we can control our emotions, we can control our hormonal balance by just giving some time of our body or eyes or brain to sleep. One interesting or very important example I can say how or generally why our day and night cycle is divided into two equal half, 12 and 12 hours. Why it is not? The day is long and night is very short. Why what you are doing nowadays? Our night time is very short. We are working in light. We switch off the light, but our mobile screen and laptop screen light is also focusing our eyes. So as a day. So basically the daytime is a long for our brain, and night time, that the dark time, is very short nowadays in our brain. So our brain is thinking or going to thinking in our future days that there is a long daytime and a very short night time, and he may change its functions or regulations to hormones on that way, and that will be very dangerous for the human beings. That is the altered sleep wake behavior. So what I am saying, that please give your brain a dark time, enough dark time for his balance, for his function and for his rest. For the third eyes, this is a very interesting that Ajna Chakra in 19th century in the theosophy and undefined in the pineal gland, in the Hindu concept there is a third eyes in the Ajna Chakra. But interestingly, Hollywoods are far ahead. They are very interested in our science, that in 2030 the horror film Bonsi chapter is believed influenced by the story from behind by the H.P. Lovecraft. So you can see the movie, you can get some idea for that. So these are 1 p.m. and we are just searching or surfing our social media, we are involved in the social media, and a huge illumination in our face or eyes, I think destroying our internal homeostasis. The physiology is going to be destroyed. These are the health related disorder due to irregular sleep cycle. There are increased risk of medical conditions, there are risks of accidents or risks of medical health disorder. These all are very I think this is very known to all of us. So I am not discussing this very much. For this slide I am not prepared. But a question for all of you, that just compare the capacity of memory of your brain by your computer or phone memory. This is also an example of a mystery of our brain. Okay, so we are just ending by the mystery that what we are doing in day and what we are doing in night. Thank you.